what I'm going to talk about is a long-term outlook, as Joachim presented. And those of you that know CSE IT Center, you're lucky. But if you don't know it, we're basically we have the third largest supercomputer in the world. We have a lot of projects in European. We're participating in a lot of projects in the European Union, and one of us is HEAP. And two things I want you to take home with you, and this is. I want to talk about sustainability of the developed solutions and sustainability of the data sets and cohorts. Why are these important? Well, first of all, like you heard earlier today about SPEs and EHDS and data and whatever. The developed solutions need to be sustainable because even though they will be developed as part of some European projects, they need to continue going forward so that scientists have an environment where they can analyze data. And that could only happen by extending capabilities of providers of these SPEs, so enabling new solutions such as we saw yesterday, like HOPSROCks as part of the SPEs, also improving interoperability. We heard earlier today about federation. What that means is basically SPEs need to talk with one another so that it can enable cross-border analysis of data. And this is something that is being worked in some projects that I'm going to mention towards the end. So that's why it's important to have this technology sustainable, so they can continue after the lifetime of a specific project or after we're all, I don't know, 20 years from now. The other is sustainability of data sets and cohorts. These solutions or these SPEs are not going to be usable if there's no data and there's no cohort in them. So, and there's even more so that's if they're not findable, accessible, and reusable, as we found out. And even more so, it helps to be part of European infrastructure when possible. And here I'm talking about federated EGA, some of you might be familiar with, or GDI, which is Genomic Data Infrastructure. So these are the two key aspects I want to talk about. Now, focusing a bit on the first point, which is the solutions-based. The solution needs to have some sort of points you need to adhere to. One is adhere to some standards, like security standards. You want to at least be ISO certified and to be able to process or to demonstrate this to auditors that you are able to do that. We heard earlier today about FinData. Well, that's one certification. If you want to be, for example, EHDS compliant, that might be certain certificate authorities that will tell your provider or of data that you can use that kind of data in that provider or that SPE. The other is to provide some sort of level of access control, where you want to enable data access committee to provide access to scientists when they request access to data. And of course, you want to be in line with the requirements and initiatives from within European regulation or even internationally, indifferent of how those regulations are formed or if they are good or not. So yeah. And even more so, the last aspect is you want to be flexible. You want to be adaptive to the technology landscape going forward. So you want to enable future solutions in your SPE or in analysis environment. Now, speaking of this, how this can be interpreted or how we did it at CSE, we have, as part of our sensitive data services for research, we have, depends on how you view it, we have about 4 main services. One is, which is called SD Connect, is for storing data, storing and sharing data, which does not require to be under controlled access. That data can be computed in SPE, TRE, or depends on how what your definition is, which we call SD Desktop. So we can enable computation in that sort of isolated environment for that data. And we also provide data under controlled access, which is provided by the service on the lower bottom, which is SD Apply. And that SD Apply service facilitates controlled access for the data, which is in federated EGA and SD Submit, which are 2 main services that scientists can use for submitting data under controlled access. And I think Ville already is using some of them, so as part of HEAP. So this is what we built in terms of capability, what we have at CSE, and we use HEAP as a driver for extending these kind of capabilities, for these kind of solutions. And one way we did so is that we enabled HOPS works within our secure infrastructure. And this is done like a bit more technical, but the idea is that in an isolated environment, scientists will be able to access through our existing services, HOPSWorks platform, and they'll be able to get access to the data, which is under controlled access or normal kind of data that users can store in our SD Connect service. And this is one of the things that we can use for extending the capabilities of our existing SPE, which is crucial for the sustainability use case that I mentioned earlier within the presentation. Even more so, the data needs to be there. So in order to facilitate the data is continuously integrated in our environment, I did mention the federated DGA, which is a long-standing initiative from the European Genome Phenome Archive that materialized itself in the past 2 years, mostly within the Nordics, but I think we have other countries joining, such as Poland, Spain, Portugal, and I think Czech Republic and many more. So there are going to be a wide range of countries adhering to this kind of European Genome Phenome Archive network. But there are other initiatives, such as TEDAS2, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, which is an implementation of the EHDS on the secondary use of health data. There's also other initiatives to create a European network trusted research environments like EOSCAN Trust to enable different providers to interoperate with one another and to be able to facilitate that kind of federated computation. Because there's no like clear, I wouldn't call it even standard, there's no clear way of how different kind of providers in different countries can do this kind of analysis. And EOSCAN Trust wants to be a driver towards that. There have been mention of other projects or research infrastructures, both yesterday, I think Irene, it was mentioned, and Elixir Europe infrastructures, which enable these kind of initiatives for data to be shared across borders. And yeah, that was my presentation. So thank you.